Are you dreaming big enough? I want you to dream big and act bigger. You see, I want to have power. I want to be empowered. Suddenly, being empowered is a more positive word, because I want to make sure that I know my own values, my boundaries. I know what I want to achieve in life. Visible and invisible barriers are only a problem if you accept them as such. So a woman with a big dream also needs to have a plan, because without a plan, that dream is just a wish.
I love her confidence, I love her charisma and her positivity and her brightness and her color and her lessons about life. You know, as a woman who's been through so much, it was really, really inspiring and really interesting.
I had 4 kids in 2 years. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I had no money. I had to think, how is this dream going to happen? If you actually start believing, if something's important to you, just back yourself. Back yourself despite what other people say. Successful people are not held back by what other people say.
I would recommend that for everybody, because everybody should have a dream and everybody should back themselves. So I think she's awesome.
Even when it feels like everything's not going to work, they go, you know what? I'm going to make sure that this does work. I'm going to be positive despite, because it brings energy, it brings opportunity. And as soon as you actually get half glass empty, your vision will start failing. I encourage you to start making your dreams a reality in business and in life. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to those of you who have been joining us at our Women's Biz Global Success Summit. It's all about mindset magic, and welcome to those of you who are just tuning in. We are so thrilled that you have been able to join us. My next presenter is coming all the way from Zimbabwe. Her name is Ambassador Dr. Patricia Gonde, and she is an educationist at heart. She's an academic life coach, a student advisor. She's also a global international speaker, a social activist, a country director, company coordinator, research mentor. Oh my goodness, she has been doing all things education for the past 30 years. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing with Dr. Patricia today, hearing her wisdom on mindset shifts, where mindset shifts magic moments have happened for herself as an individual, professionally, and also with those students that she is able to educate and mentor through their journey. So welcome, Dr. Patricia.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on this live show. Thank you.
It is such a delight to have you here. So how about you start sharing with us all then? What does it mean to be a 21st century modern educator? You know, you're at the top of your game. You're educating people to be the best of themselves, but also to use the best of the education system, you know, and principles of education. So what does that actually mean to you as an educator?
As an educator, it means that as an educator myself, I have to be a 21st century teacher and make available a classroom that is a 21st classroom, because we know that the era that we are living in, our children are IT savvy, so we have to keep up to date. Be on the same page with them. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then also it means like 21st century skills. We need to impart and inculcate all those values, the 21st century skills, to our 21st century child.
Exactly. There's nothing worse than being in an industry, a profession that you're doing things the way you were trained, you know they worked, but are not relevant, therefore, to people who are actually students now. So it's a secret, you know, it's a requirement actually of any professional, particularly educationists though, that you are meeting the needs of the student in this space, in the world right now. So I love what you shared there. It's all about, you know, not just the education, but it's actually accessing education in a way that it will relate to them. It is implementable, accessible and implementable, right?
Yes, thank you. Also, because we are moving from that traditional shift, it's a shift totally, where it was almost teacher-centered. We are moving to a child-centered approach when we are in the 21st century. The child is at the center of the learning, and we are the facilitators. We are guiding their education using different methods that you can make use of in the classroom.
I love that. It aligns to me as a health educationist. Actually, I'd been a health educational CEO for the last, you know, probably 15 years. And that's exactly it. We've become, instead of medical led, we've become patient centered. And it's that same sort of approach, actually. Who is actually receiving? Who is actually getting the solution, you know, to their problems? Who is growing in this context? Who is getting the benefit? They have to be at the center, and it has to be relevant to them. Absolutely. Not just, I remember when we were, you know, kids, it's like the teacher has all the information and they just fill you up, right? It's like it's like you're an empty vessel and you've just got to be filled up. Whereas now it's kind of like it's information that is accessible, but it has to be relatable. And then I have to think, do I want to implement that bit of information at this time? What have you learnt in your own mindset? This summit's all about mindset magic, mindset shifts. What have you learnt as an educator over the last 30 years as you've continued to adapt and modify and enhance your ability as an educator? What sort of big mindset shifts did you need to go through?
Yeah, as an let me just take you back to the last 2 years. I think everyone was caught unaware when COVID-19 struck in 2019. Most of us, maybe we were used to the traditional method of teaching, like you are saying, where a child is sitting and that's like a bucket where you are filling in water. So when COVID-19 struck, most of the teachers, the parents, and some of the students were not even IT literate. So we were thrown in the deep end in 2019. I think here in Zimbabwe it was around March, when we were just told that next week we are going to close schools. So as teachers, as educationists, we had to quickly think and shift our mindset to being more IT savvy, going through all the trainings, Microsoft Teams, making sure that also our parents are at the same level as us, and also because now they had children at home. So we had to quickly shift and go on digital online learning. So there is that time in life whereby you need to shift your mindset to suit the situation. This is what happened in 2019 up to 2020.
Yeah.
So for us as educationists, for the parents, we always tell our parents that you do not sometimes need to have that fixed mindset, but you have to change. For you to grow, you have to have what we call a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
all about growth mindset. Because it's where the future is. It's where the possibility is. It's where you can retry things, rework things, and have success from them in a different time, in a different way. And sometimes you need to have those failures so that you can actually fail forward, right? Rather than just seeing it as a one-time fail and therefore not possible. There's a whole massive bit of piece of information there. I love the way you actually had to adapt though, and in COVID, it was probably, although COVID has been an incredibly devastating experience on the world, it also has come with amazing opportunities in the world of education, because if you weren't up to speed by 2019, you certainly are now, right? Because
yes,
it was
sure.
a crash course of adapting your educational practices to a whole new medium. And I'm sure that came with a lot of shock, a lot of concern, fear, for teachers that so not only are you, I think you're the deputy in where you're the area that you're working, not only are you leading by example and trying to work things out yourself, but you're also
Yes.
all of those teaching faculty going, oh my gosh, what do we do now? How do we bring everything online while you've got uncertainty in the world, right, at that time?
Yeah, I can tell you that we had 1 week to quickly, because it was end of March, and then April, it was 1 week. We only had 1 week to prepare to go on Microsoft Teams, to roll out the Microsoft.
Oh, sorry about this. We've lost Patricia. She's coming
Sorry,
back.
yeah. So I was saying that we had it's my internet, sorry.
That's okay.
To roll up Microsoft Teams, to train our teachers. There was a lot of hand holding, especially because in a school, you know that we have got the young, the middle-aged, and some of the aged old people. So we had to make sure that everyone at least had some basic training for us to start. Yes.
1 week. How about that, everyone listening in? You've got 1 week to suddenly just change everything you do. You just go to work, teach your students in a classroom. This is the way. You might have a few online assets, but it's usually been, I know when my kids were going through school, it's more that you can submit your assignment and the teacher can get it at the other end. We're up to that kind of technology. Whereas suddenly, to be able to put, 35 hours a week of education online with resources, using platforms. I actually think this is a fascinating conversation, because often we're thinking of a teacher, it's the teacher and the students, but you actually had a lot of teachers on teachers, right? It's actually equipping the team so that you can therefore adequately support the student. Right, so you want the student at the center of what does this student need at this time. If this student is now going to be isolated at home, and then those environments will be very different. Do they have the technology? Do they have someone at home to help them with their technology or their IT assistance? Do they have technology which has the access to the internet and platforms that you're wanting to share on? There are just so many components that the variables are huge, right? In other professions, you can kind of plan something out and go, everyone has to be equipped. But you're dealing with students all over Zimbabwe, right? Who were having very different experiences at the other end as a consumer.
Yes, you can say that again. Also, I think this was a totally different shift. So we also needed to prepare them also mentally. So we had to find some people to talk to our parents, to talk to our children, just to make sure that they are mentally prepared as well before we started anything. Because with that, some children were really, really affected. So we had to support them. And also with a specification of computers being sent and everything, then you would find that there are some children who didn't have any sort of gadgets that we needed. So as a school, we had to make sure that we supply some of the tablets from the school to make sure that everyone was ready to start, from parents to children and to teachers. So this is different now. You know that our education is shifting from what I was telling you about the traditional mindset, whereby when we were learning ourselves, the teacher was the one who was always standing in front and
Yes.
would just listen and write exams. But the children that we have, if you do that now, also because of the different syllabi that we are using, Cambridge, we are using Cambridge, just like we were talking about the 21st century learner. There's a lot of critical thinking methods, problem solving methods, communication skills, those soft skills, collaboration. So it's totally different. We have shifted quite a lot because we have to churn out a child who is a lifelong learner.
Yes.
Who myself, when I grew up, I always thought that when I grow up, my mindset was to be employed. But we have to teach our children life skills that even if they don't get employment, they should create employment at the end of their schooling, high school or university level.
Exactly. Because the modern world means that, everyone has the potential to be an entrepreneur, in their own way, with their own resources. Some of them will make billions. Some of them will just get by. Some of them might dabble in some things just for a little extra side cash while they're also doing their own role. The modern adult, if you like, is always being a bit more sort of digitally savvy, I suppose, in opportunities. And therefore, we all do need to be lifelong learners. And I absolutely love that it's not the teacher at the front, it's actually the teacher amongst. You're more of a facilitator now. You're actually showing them teaching them knowledge and skills and attributes, I suppose, that will help them in their future life, but also how to access information as required, how to use that information in a specific context. And the contexts are more and more diverse than when we were young, right? So the careers,
thank you.
Statistics of careers that aren't even there yet, that might be there in 5 years. So there's so much more uncertainty. It's more that you're skilled for the environment and the world rather than the specific where you think you're going. I know when I was young, my parents were like, you'd be a teacher or a nurse or whatever. So then now it's unknown.
Yes, thank you. Also, that our children need a lot of exposure. So in the education setting that I have, we do not, when we grew up, it was only academic. You have to be an A-star student for you to be successful.
Yes.
But it is totally different now. We are also including academic, yes, sporting, culture, music, arts, all of those. We always expose our children. They've done so well in music. We have some who are in the music industry right now. We have some children who are designers of shoes overseas there from the school. So we try by all means to balance the academic, the cultural, the sporting, arts, and so many subjects, including right now.
Oh, sorry, folks, she'll pop back.
It's the internet. It's our enemy today.
Right.
So
We are
right now, I was just telling you about what we do, and also clubs like cycling, horse riding, cookery, baking, equipping them with life skills that they can use, because it's not at the end of the day that we all have people who are academic, but who have different skills. Yes.
Yes, and all of those skills are absolutely wonderful. We're all so uniquely and beautifully made. The focus used to be forever in my childhood, of academics. The people who are academic or in that A grade list or selected as gifted or whatever, they therefore got told this message: oh, you will be successful, and everybody else, it's like, oh well, your goal is to get a job of some kind, or to make it. But it was all based very much on pure academia, whereas we know
Yes.
very much that all of those other, that's right, brilliant minds with languages, music, arts, being creative energies and forces, there's just so much more than pure academic thinking. In fact, a lot of emotional intelligence and other people skills are going to come out very strongly in other
Yes.
dispositions, if you like, of students of today.
Yeah, also, with students of today, and also the parents as well, they've changed. It's totally different from the way our parents saw us or how they did it. The parent of today is more involved in the children's learning, in their child's learning. They have to know what is happening in the school so that they can also help them at home. It depends. So yes, there are some parents who need to be taught, or who need us as educationists to talk to them about the importance of always knowing what your child is doing at school, not how he's doing, but to be more involved, because they also need that at home. It's an extension.
Yeah.
From yes.
I think that's a really good point to raise, because that's actually requires, as an extension, it also requires more time and commitment of parents to actually be actively engaged in their children's learning. So in those other days where you actually just sent your kids off to school and they got educated and then came back and you have life, now it's like, no, we want and we expect you to be actively engaged in those lessons. So there's time that's going to be required for parents, and that's a huge joy, and it's a privilege, but it's also a pressure for many. Oops, I've totally lost Patricia now. Don't worry, everybody, she will definitely be reappearing here in 1 minute. A massive mindset shift there in or comments to Patricia, such as, imagine the change that has actually affected modern day parents. right? Think of the time now, the time that you need to set aside to actively engage in your children's education, which is, a joy and a privilege, but it's also a, a stress at different times of people's lives while they're trying to juggle business and life and all of the complexities that we do. So there's a time requirement. There's also a massive mindset shift there in understanding technology, different learning styles, different ways that children learn and the requirements of them. So not only are we having a conversation about what teachers need to do, what teachers need to help with other teachers, which those teachers need to do with children, keeping children at the centre. We also then have children and parents. We have that whole area that has required a massive mindset shift, I believe, certainly in the It looks like we've lost Patricia. Her internet was struggling, and I totally understand that, coming in from Zimbabwe. We really appreciated her being on our summit. I was just going to close then with some reflections that I've had from this conversation. I think it's absolutely amazing that we have a profession here with educators such as Dr. Patricia, who are constantly just reinventing themselves and their profession. I love the way she highlighted the 21st century learner and having the child, the student, at the center of their learning. And I love the way, although it was challenging and extremely confronting, actually, for I think a lot of teachers when COVID hit, that they actually had to be ready to adapt, because if they didn't, they had nothing to provide their students. There was a sense of urgency, and I also love that sometimes you need that sense of urgency to drag you into that next stage. And so with urgency therefore comes action, and they teachers around the world have done that brilliantly. Absolutely, we need to send a lot of acknowledgement and praise to our teachers. Not only did I hear reflections on how that challenge was for herself as an educator with her students, setting up students to have online education in a modern way, we also heard the challenges of her being able to, mentor and coach your own teachers on what their part in that is, and equipping them rapidly on how to adapt to those new technology and the adaptation of, and having an equity and equality issue with students around Zimbabwe. I also heard her at the end. I was going to speak to her more about, that impact on modern day parents. That's huge, right? So when we used to send our child or children off to school and they'd get educated, come back, do a little bit of homework, and away you go. Now we have the modern day learner actually is all about active learning. They're all about accessing information, discussing it, getting their own rationale or thoughts on that. How does that affect their own world? How are they going to implement that? How can they sort of leave it to be accessed at a time that they do want to consider it more? So the whole way we learn is just so different, and I absolutely love it. I think it's so much for the better. But with that comes a challenge for parents. It comes with mindset shifts for them, because they're going to need to realize that their students, their children are learning sometimes in very different ways than they did. They're going to need to free themselves up for more active engagement in their children's education. And with that is going to require, pressures in their own family, adjusting to their time and their need. It can also make parents feel incredibly vulnerable when you don't have those skills. You don't have particularly tech skills. You don't know how, if their internet goes out or if their program needs to be accessed on a specific program. How does that work? And your children usually think mum and dad know everything, and then so that can be extremely challenging as well. But finally, I love the way she started this conversation about, we need to be there for the modern learner. We need to put the person at the centre in all things that we do. Here I am, a business and life coach. You want to keep that client at the centre. If you're in retail, keep that customer at the centre. Patricia's in education, keep that child at the centre. I have a background in health education. Doctors and nurses, keep your patients at the centre. And with that, we've come a long way. I think that's been the massive shift that we appreciate. We're actually here for the consumer. We're here for the person who needs our help and our assistance, our knowledge, our skills, our attributes, be able to help them on their journey. And so I've loved our conversation. I'm sorry that we lost Patricia halfway through, but I really thank you so much for joining us in this session. Hello and welcome. My name is Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. As a woman, a career executive and mum of 5, I know that becoming successful in a modern day society, it can be extremely difficult and challenging. The requirements of career and business success are often overwhelming, especially when you have competing priorities like family. But that does not mean that you can't be extraordinary. At Women's Biz Global, our goal is to educate, motivate and elevate women so that they can have the freedom to live a life they love. It doesn't matter what your current status or position is. Your empowered future starts now. Whether you're a startup or a scale-up or you're juggling business, life, career, family, everything, we will teach you how to dominate in your niche area without the stress and overwhelm that comes from wasting time and money and energy. We will equip you to achieve success, balance and happiness on your terms. We invite you to join Women's Biz Tribe. Start by attending Women's Biz events and enjoy the benefit of interacting with like-minded women from around the globe who are choosing to unapologetically play a bigger game. Women's Biz Coaching offers a variety of programs that may suit your needs. We have boot camps and webinars, online structured programs and incubators. They're all designed to help grow your personal and professional brand, confidence and support framework. Women's Biz Media will help you discover extraordinary women via our podcast, Memoirs of Successful Women, and reach 12 million potential readers via Women's Biz Magazine. Women's Biz Publishing will take all the pain away from getting your voice and message out into the world. Your brand value will literally skyrocket overnight. And if you would prefer to access our consulting services, I will personally ensure high value solutions are provided to meet your specific needs, to time, to budget, and all with a beaming smile. Finally, get to know our affiliate partners and learn how you might like to become one yourself. Women's Biz Global is the support network that will fast track your journey to success. So what are you waiting for? Be unapologetically you. Women's Biz Global, helping women succeed in business and life.